Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Uncharted Stars, designed by Scott Alms and illustrated by Tristan Rossum. Uncharted Stars is a print-and-play roll-and-write adventure. I don't have a box, I have literally my printed-out rulebook instead to go over, but this is a print-and-play I'm literally blowing my board across the table over here. It's a print-and-play roll-and-write game in which you're going to be rolling dice every single round, across 3 rounds of play, slowly but surely, using the dice to be able to, well, explore space and upgrade your ship and crew and engines and thrusters and all those things in the game. This is a print-and-play roll-and-write. This is a prototype as well, all rules and components subject to change and all of that, and I'll have a link to the crowdfunding campaign down below. It is worth noting that the game already has had some small tweaks and adjustments to the rules since I've played it, so again, very much a prototype, take that into account. But with that, let's go into how the game plays, and then my review opinion of the game. This is going to be very off the cuff. I have no notes, no recommendations, no final, I just going to be off the cuff. Let's go ahead and dive into it, but starting off with how you play. In the game, you're going to have 18 rounds of play. That's going to be tracked on your star calendar over here, and the first thing you do is you name your ship. We're going to name it the Adrift. We're going to name it the Adrift because of how casually it blew across the table for my literal talking about the game. And ignore my voice, by the way. I'm fine. At least I think I'm fine. We'll find out soon enough. In any case, in the game, you're going to take those 18 rounds. You're going to roll the dice. Now, we're going to be playing it kind of as a single-player situation over here, just to show you how it plays. In reality, you'd have multiple people competing for, higher score and all that. But you're going to go ahead and roll the dice. And from here, you're going to use the dice. Those are 5, 1, and 1. And you're going to use the dice for one of a few different options. You can either combine the dice in order to set up 2 pairs of dice. So you have 1 and 2, and then use that to explore space. Well, alternatively, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and use 2 dice to explore space and 1 die to upgrade my ship. That's going to be round 1. We're going to take the 1 and the 5. That means I can either explore sector 1-5 over here on the axis or 1-5 over here on the axis. I haven't figured out which one I'll do. They're both honestly empty space. Let's go ahead and take a look at what the 1 will do for us. I can also do 1-1 and put the 5 over here, which is actually not crazy. We're going to go ahead and do that. We're going to do the 1-1 and then the 5. And the reason we're going to do that is because we can now go ahead and explore this planet. We're going to mark this planet as explored using whatever indicator you want. This is now an explored planet, and we'll talk more about the relevance, but one thing that's going on is we can use this 5 over here on the ship to hire an officer. This planet has a little N in the corner, which means we can go ahead and hire the diplomat, no, the navigator. We're going to hire the navigator, and the navigator is going to help us in the sense that we can now use a station to warp as a space action. Stations may connect diagonally. That will make more sense shortly. That was round 1. We are done with round 1. We used our 5 to hire an officer. We can only do that if we had explored on or adjacent to a planet with a letter of a specific officer we had not explored. I'm going to mark off round 1. In a few rounds, I'm going to tell you more about what we're doing and why, or what our goals are. For right now, I'm just going to keep rolling dice as I continue to explore the vast reaches of the galaxy. Maybe I could do a 1-2, or I could do a 2-5. A 2-5 would either be a 5-2 over here. That's not bad. It would get me that other planet, although I don't know if I want that. You know what? Now that we have those space stations that let us explore anywhere, a 1-2 would be here, a 1-2 would be here. Let's go ahead and pop down. Note the 5 won't help me because we don't need that 5 at that point. And the 4 won't help me there. This is really... Actually, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and do that. So we're going to go ahead and pop down 1-2, and we're going to build a space station. Whenever you're building an empty space, you can build a space station, which I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm going to draw a little fancy dandy little space station, just using... I don't even know how to draw a space station here. Let's go ahead and draw a, I don't know, a little pole over here. We got a space station there. That's going to be the 1-2. We got our little space station thing over here in this planet. And then over here, we're going to use the 5 to build a robot. So we're going to mark a 5 over here. That means we have now built our 5 robot, and we can use that later. That's going to be very helpful for possibly cashing in some officers later. We'll explain more how that works, and we're going to mark off another round. And if you're like 2 of 18 rounds are already gone, you've done nothing, Alex. Well, you're not wrong. We've also been rolling a lot of 1s and 2s over here, and specifically, we got a 1, 1, and 6. Now, 1 and 6 can take us down here, which is not the worst, or 1 and 6 can take us over here to take down the ship. I think we're going to go ahead and use the 1 and the 6. So we're going to use the 1 and the 6. And again, you could add the dice together. I haven't felt the need to yet because I haven't gotten any high numbers, but we'll show you how that works. But we're going to use that 1 and 6 right now, and we're going to mark off this planet. So we have another planet marked off. In fact, we've marked off 2 things in this grid. If we can mark off one more, we'll be able to mark off part boxes. Whenever you mark off full rows or columns or sectors, you're going to get certain rewards. We'll talk more about that. But I did my 1 and my 6, and I'm also going to use one of my 5s. You see, earlier in the game we built a 5 robot, so I'm going to use that to be able to go ahead and hire an officer while doing that, which means I'm also going to go ahead and get my science officer. If you complete a sector, you can take a second turn from the same dice from the star date. So we're going to go ahead and show you how that works soon. But first we're going to use this one to be able to recruit a red shirt. Now, by the way, you're actually supposed to start with a recruit red shirt, so I'm actually going to go ahead and recruit my second red shirt. Those are going to be helpful as well. But for right now, let's go ahead and roll these again. So we're going to roll these. We got a 1, 1, and a 3. This genuinely is some of the most abysmal die rolling I've seen so far, but at least we do have a 3. That's our first instance of a 3. The problem is, to utilize that 3, I'd have to use the 1, 1, which is not fun, so I'm not going to even be able to show you what the 3 does. It is sad, it is unfortunate, but we will live with ourselves. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to go ahead and use that 1 to, again, mark off a red shirt. Yeah, I think so, and then I'm going to use the 3 and the 1. I could use this to... I think I'm going to go ahead and use that to mark off a ship over here. I don't want to do any of this. You know what? We're going to build a space station again. We're going to build a space station. So we're going to go ahead and just build around over here. And we're going to build around over here and just, have my space station going through there. We're going to come back to what the space stations do soon enough. But for right now, we have a few space stations in play. And that was we have 1, 2, 3, 4. That was turn 4. Turn 4 is done. We are not making a ton of progress. Don't worry. It's all going to move up faster sooner or later. We're going to roll, and we have a 6, 5, and 4. Finally, we can show you some fun things. So with that 11 over here, if we wanted to, we can go to row 4 and 11. That's not the worst. In fact, we might do that to get our hands on diplomats. Let's go ahead and... Do I want to go here? It's not really the best. I could also do a 10 and a 5. Or a 10 or a 9 and a 6. A 9 and a 6 is not the worst either. But a 10 and a 5 would get me over here. Honestly, a 10 and a 5 is not bad. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to combine that for the 10 and the 5, which means we're not going to be marking off this grid, at least not yet. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this over here. And we have this little space station in space over here. So we've got another space station, which we've built over here on 10, because we combined the 6 and the 4, and we did that on row 5, and that gets us out in space, which can be helpful, but also the C and the D is going to be the diplomat. When a planet is adjacent to 2 space stations, that's not bad. I could do that. It's really not bad, I think. In fact, I think I'm going to go ahead and grab the diplomat. So I'm going to mark off my other 5, and now that we went close to the D over here, we're going to go ahead and... yeah, we're going to go ahead and mark off the diplomat, which is going to give us another officer. So we already have 3 officers unlocked. 1, 2, 3. And now, potentially, if we got another space station here, these 2 planets would automatically be explored. And we're going to mark off another one. Okay, we're going through this. This will all work shortly. But let's go ahead and show you one more thing. See, this is where I could go ahead and use a red shirt to take another space action. Although, let's hold off on that. I might hold off a bit and do that shortly, but that's going to indicate round 6. That's done. We're going to keep rolling. Don't worry, things will pick up the pace soon enough. Now, we have a 2, 3, and a 4, so let's go ahead and use the 2 and the 3 on the ship over here on the board, which could be 2 or 3 over here, or it could be a 2 or 3 down here, which would hit that spaceship. I don't mind hitting the spaceship, but I also kind of like hitting this deep space zone. You'll see why more soon. These are kind of just populating up right now without me really using them, but the 2 and 3 is going to lock that in, and then the 4 is going to be the first time you see me mark off some parts. You see, with a 3 or 4, you can mark off that many parts, and I'm going to start marking off some lasers. You know what, honestly, I'm going to mark off 1, 2, and 3 in those zones, okay, and then we're going to mark off 1 more. Do I want more lasers? I kind of do want more lasers. Let's go ahead and mark off some more lasers. So we're going to mark off some lasers over there. These are going to be lasers, thrusters, and shields, and they're all going to have an impact, but before we do, we're going to mark off round 7, and I could take another deep space action, but I don't think I'm going to bother, at least not yet, although I could use it to jump down here. If I jump down here, then I can complete a sector. I can go ahead and take the same dice from this star date, which is not the worst. It's not the worst, but I think, see, the thing I'm thinking through, that would go there, that would give me nothing, really. Nothing at least for now. Let's go ahead and keep rolling. We'll start cashing in our bonuses soon enough. So, we got a 1, 1, and a 3. Again, an absolutely abysmal showing, but at least we can use the 1 and the 3 there. So we're going to use the 1 and the 3, and this is where having the navigator helps. You see, because I've unlocked the navigator, I can use a station to warp to warp as a space station. I can use a station to warp as a space station. Basically, I can use the 1 and the 3 and re-trigger this zone over here. I'm going to mark off that the space station is utilized by, let's go ahead and put some rings around the top and the bottom to show it's a used space station. And then I'm going to either be able to warp as far as I want this way or this way to be able to jump around. Now, I can't land on this yet, unfortunately. Because of the fact this is an asteroid, I need shields to be able to break through asteroids. So I'm going to go as far as I want down this column over here, which means I could hit this space station here, but I think instead I'm going to explore this planet over here. So that's going to get a bit of an exploration on this planet, which is useful. So we've now explored another planet, which will be helpful for clearing off this sector as well as the rows and columns. And that's because I space station down here, and then the 1 is going to be used to unlock another engineer. That's going to be round 8, and now we're going to move on to the next round. Round 9. We have a 2, 2, and a 6. This wasn't my plan, by the way, but I may incidentally end up playing through the whole game because honestly, it's not the worst. But we have a 6, 2, and 2 over here. A 6 would bring me here, which I don't need. A 2 would bring me here, which is not the worst. 2 and 6. A 6 could bring me a high ring. A 2 and 2 would bring me that. I really want more ship parts, unfortunately. I probably messed up a bit as far as that goes. Let's go ahead and pop down a 6 over here. So we're going to use the 6 and the 2 to go down over here, building another space station. So we're locking up on those space stations. I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. We will figure out by the time the game is over. I'm going to use the 2 to mark off 2 recruits over here. You can mark off 2 with a 2, and then let's mark off round 9. That's that, and we're on to round 10. Don't worry, things will eventually pick up. Boom, we got a 2, 4, and a 3. So I'm going to use the 2 and the 3 to activate that space station there, and I'm going to use the 4 to activate a 4 robot because I really want to be able to use the robots to start activating some of those and get those moving. We're going to use the 2 and the 3 to activate this space station, which means I'm going to go ahead and use that to go ahead and mark that off and mark that off and ping all the way down here. So because we've pinged all the way down here, we're going to explore this planet, and this planet fully compromises an entire sector. I've just explored this entire sector, which means I can now use my science officer. If you complete a sector, you can take a second turn from the same dice from this star date. So I'm going to take another turn as well to be able to do this once more unto the beach, dear friends. To that end, how do I want to do this over here? How do I want to do this is the question, because I can reuse the dice. I've explored the sector. I'm going to go ahead and do a few things. So let's go ahead and the 2 and the 3, you know what? Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to use the 2 and the 3 to explode this ship, which is a little premature, but we're just going to do it right now. That's going to be the 2 and the 3. We're going to use the 4 to start exploring 1, 2, 3, 4 over there. And then we're also going to go ahead and mark off one of these 4s to, again, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I do have the ability to mark through shields, through thrusters. I have a bunch of abilities I've just unlocked, and everything's going to get a lot faster. I may or may not finish the game. This too much. Things pick up. The first 10 turns are just getting started, and now things are going to start picking up. So we're going to mark off 10 turn 10, and we're going to continue rolling dice so you can start at least seeing everything in play. We have a 4, 2, and 6. Now I kind of want to do the 6 and the 2 again, because that will let me activate this space station, which will let me go all the way down here. That's not a bad thing. In fact, it could let me go over here. Let's do that. We're going to explore this space station using the 2 and the 6, which is going to go ahead and put a space station over here. And because we have a space station over here, we're going to go ahead and do that. And that means this planet and this planet are now both explored because of my diplomat's ability. When a planet is adjacent to 2 stations, it's automatically visited. So both these planets are visited, which means we're going to have a bit of a cascading turn. But first, we're going to use the 4 over there to mark off some more boxes. We now have 2 lasers. We're going to mark that, that, and that. Okay, we're going to start talking about what these do in a second, but before we do, we're going to go ahead and use the 2 and the 6. We've done that, which means we get another turn. Because we've now enclosed this sector, we're going to get another turn in this sector. This is where the cascading starts happening. It starts happening fairly quickly. Okay, so we're going to get another turn in the sector before we mark off turn 11, but I'll mark off turn 11 a bit prematurely, and we have another full turn. Do I want to use the 6 and the 2 going this way? I could. That's not bad. So let's go ahead and use the 6 and the 2 more going this way. So what I'm going to do is as follows. No, I need the weapons officer. How can I get my hands on the weapon officer? That's going to be, we have a planet with a W over here, and we have a planet with a W over here. Neither are immediately accessible, but I could use my thrusters, which would bring me to a 9, but that's still not enough. I need to bring it a 2, and that's the 10. That pushes me too far. Because basically what I need is I need a weapons officer, because a weapons officer will let me target additional enemies with my lasers that I've started unlocking. And laser increases the range. In other words, what I could do is right now, if I use my 2 and 6 over here, I have range 1 on my lasers instead of just hitting the zone with the ship. Normally you just hit the zone with the ship, but because I have additional lasers, I can shoot this or this. But if I add the weapons officer, I can shoot this and this. So I really want to get that weapons officer locked in. We'll have to do what we have to do, one step at a time, but we still have to turn 2 and 6. I've already used the 4. This is my second turn, I think. I'm not entirely sure anymore. I may have lost track of things. But let's go ahead and explore. I have my planet locked in. I have that. I could increase the die because I could use my thruster. Because I have one thruster, I could increase the value of one die. So I think I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and pop a space station down here. Okay, and we're going to go ahead, and I think I started drawing a drawn-in spaceship. We drew a space station there, and then we're done. That's going to be turn 11, and then we're going to do turn 12. And this will be the last turn before I start walking through things, because decisions are starting to ramp up and ramp up quickly. So we have a 1 and a 1, which I could use. I could make that a 1 and a 2, which is not a bad thing. And then I could use the 5, which is not going to help me. That would not help me at all. I also could have taken another space station action, which I probably should have done. Let's see what a 5 and a 1 can do for me. A 5 and a 1 can drop down here. Let's do that. So a 5 and a 1 is going to give me this space station over here, and then we're going to circle that off, and then that's going to immediately unlock this planet. Oh, darn it, I wish I had another thing, because that's a weapon planet right there. That is a weapon planet. If I could have gotten there. Either way, it's too late now. We already cashed in my 5s. So we explored that planet, which is great. We have one more thing in the sector to explore. We have the 1, which is going to give us that. That's turn 12. And I want to keep going, but I'm going to have self-control and stop. This is much longer than... I'm sorry. This is what happens when you play the game. You get a bit caught up in it. So, let's walk through things, because at this point I'm going to stop. The turns are getting larger, and I know you're like, well, you have like 5 turns left. No, they each start to get crazier and crazier as you go through at this point of the game. The basic idea in the game is you're rolling 3 dice. Those dice will be used either 2 dice to explore space, and 1 die for your spaceship, or depending how you combine things, you'll use all 3 dice for your spaceship. The things you can do as extras is you have 6 different officers, which you've already seen. The diplomat lets you explore planets when you have space stations next to them, when you have 2 space stations. Your weapons officer lets you use your lasers to target multiple targets. Your science officer lets you reuse the dice when you complete a sector, which seems nearly essential as far as I can see. The navigator lets you use a station to warp, so you can re-land on a space station to teleport as far as you want in the row or column, which can be incredibly helpful to reaching these like nether regions of space. The communications officer lets you treat stations in your largest group as worth 3 points each, which is something that's going to be an endgame scoring. But at the end of the game, you're going to look at your largest chain of connected space stations orthogonally, and if you have a navigator, you can also count diagonally. And if you have a communications officer, then the points jump from 2 points per space station in that group to 3. So, for example, right now, if I had another space station over here, then, you know, we have that over there, and then I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, either times 2 or 3, depending if you unlock the communications officer. The mechanics officer lets you mark off 1 box in every parts track. If you get that early, then you have a ramping up to getting all your parts done. Speaking of parts over here, lasers let you go further distance from where you shoot. So I can shoot here, and that means I can actually shoot range 1 with a strength 1 laser, range 2 with a strength 2 laser, and range 3 with a strength 3 laser. If you combine that with a weapons officer, then you can actually shoot multiple targets within that range as well. Your thrusters let you increase the value of 1 die by 1 for each thruster. That means you could turn a 6 directly into a 9, giving you a lot more reach into the deep parts of space. And since you have a 13 here, you're going to need that kind of situation in order to get the full end of the galaxy. And then shields let you explore asteroids. Asteroids require shields equal to the number of asteroids in order to be able to explore them, which again, if you want to get all those bonuses, are incredibly helpful. Meanwhile, if for the end of the game, well, let's cover end of the game scoring last. Any die robots over here, when you use a die to get a robot, you can either use that to take another action on your ship, or alternatively, you can use that to add to the value of something else. So you can say, I'm going to add 4 to this 7 to make it an 11 in the game. And then lastly, we have the red shirts, which the red shirts let you take extra space actions. You can cross off the red shirts to take extra space actions in the game, which again, really helpful to start exploring everything. As far as how you score in the game, let's cover a few more things. Rows over here, complete rows, and a complete row does not mean space stations, it means planets, ships, and asteroids. When you complete a row, you're going to get points equal to 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 4, 6, 7. And when you complete a column, meaning had I gotten this asteroid, then you mark off these bonuses over here, and you get to destroy enemy ships, add stations, recruit red shirts, mark part boxes, All these various bonuses down here you're going to get when you complete columns. Meanwhile, over here, endgame scoring is 1 point per visited planet. So every planet you visit is a point. 1 point per station in your group. I'm sorry, that's a typo, I believe. It's supposed to be 2 points, and then bump to 3 with your communications officer. So you get points for every space station in your groups. You get 3 points for every completed sector, and again, with your science officer, you'll be getting tons of extra turns as well if you complete those sectors. You're getting points for your officers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 officers are worth 1, 2, 5, 7, or 12 points. And then finally, you get your row bonuses, and that's going to be your score. Which means finally, mostly finished through the game, let's go ahead and talk about my experience with this game. I like the game. I like Uncharted Stars. The game starts off slow, and the game ramps up quickly. You're going to have your first 6 or 7 turns, and you'll feel like you got nothing done. Then you'll have 3 or 4 more turns, you'll feel like you start making progress. And by the time you get to the very end of it, you're taking turns which feel absolutely crazy. You'll be taking turns in the game that feel like, okay, great, you do a single thing, and you can no longer keep track of all the stuff you chain and trigger throughout the course of the game. The combination of having your lasers, thrusters, and shields ramped up. The combination of having your science officer give you doubling bonuses, and using your build robots and using your red shirts to take extra actions means you get to the end of the game, and on turn 16, you're going to sit there for 4.5 minutes checking things off while your other players around the table say, are you finished yet? Are you done yet? But then next turn they'll do the exact same thing while you ask what's going on. The game gives you that sense of cascading bonuses you might be used to if you've played some other roll and write games. If you've played games like Gansha and Clever, like Fleet, like Three Sisters. If you've played games in those genres, this game gives you those cascading bonuses, but you won't see them till like the last, third of the game, if that much. Maybe even the last quarter of the game as you go through it. But you will have cascading bonuses. So the game has that fun that you get to see in roll and writes. It's one of those things, like playing through this, I'm sad that it's just a print and play, because for me, print and play roll and writes historically don't really get played after I go through them initially. I kind of forget about them. I'm trying to fix that with some sort of binder or book or something. I don't know. Eventually I'll get there. But for me right now, playing through this game, I was sad that it was just a print and play roll and write, because it definitely has those cascading bonuses. It has a few things that I'm not quite as sure of right now. For example, that science officer feels darn near essential. The fact that you have an officer that's giving you full-on extra turns as you clear out those sectors, that's going to have a cascading effect that's going to give you even more sectors. And again, prototype, so I'm not speaking to balance issues at all. And obviously all players have the same opportunities to get those science officers, but there are some things, like not everything in the game feels completely balanced as you go through it. Getting certain combinations feels essential. If you can go ahead and lock in that weapons officer with a strength 3 laser, you can go ahead and pop down a shot over here and then kill 1, 2, 3 all in one shot. You can get these pot shots that completely clear the board. If you're over here, you can go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 over here and clear 4 ships in a single shot, which can be incredibly impactful. And you might be saying, well, Alex, you just said that the science officer and the weapons officer are both essential, and the answer is yes. But you could get both. This isn't a game where you kind of have to choose one. This is a game where you usually could get your hands on both, perhaps a little earlier or later than others, but the opportunities certainly exist and you want to pursue those. Then again, building robots is essential because you're basically getting twice your action back. You give up a 3 and you'll get back 2 3s later, which feels like it's just a fair trade. If not a fair trade, an unfair trade to your advantage. Meanwhile, recruiting red shirts over here, again, is a single die that effectively pays off in 2 dice as you explore space, and even better because you can usually take a deep space action by trading in a red shirt, so you can go ahead and trade in this one from this turn, and the next turn you can roll the dice and take in a full double deep space action with all 3 dice. Again, the trade-in ratio just seems so much better. A lot of things in the game feel like you just are going to explore them. I feel like when I play this game, the pros of the game come down to the fact that it gives you a lot of fun things to do and complete daisy chaining of just tons of things that will happen. The cons, I think, are threefold. Let's go with threefold. One is, in every game I've played of this, I have felt that I see most of the upgrades and explorations in different orders for sure. Like how fast I build out my laser versus my thruster versus my officers. Different orders for sure, but you are almost always going to see all your upgrades and bonuses because it's just worth it. You get so much more return back by doing so that it's worth exploring all of those. So it's more about the order you unlock things than whether you should or shouldn't unlock things. The second aspect is that sometimes the game can be a bit irritating towards the end game as you roll combinations where you literally have wasted dice, where you can't use it over here, you can't use them over here. You will have opportunities where the dice feel a little bit wasted. I almost wish there was a way to cash in like extra I don't know, extra something where you're like, oh, I have an extra value over here, I'm just going to put it over there. So sometimes towards the end game, you have too many things filled in and a die feels wasted. And when I play games like Fleet, Three Sisters, Gone Clever, when I play games in those genres, nothing ever feels wasted. I never feel like I have too much. The game over here gives you so much cascading that there are points that you sometimes feel like you have too much. And then lastly, I'll say, I had a lastly note. I'm telling you I did, but I don't remember what it was. So it gives you potentially too much to do. I wish it had overflow. And it kind of get everything. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I had a train of thought there. It really did. Overall, I really like the game. I find it a lot of fun. I am curious about the, development cycle and any tweaking that will or won't happen, but even in its current state, it is a very enjoyable game. My biggest thing with all these kinds of things now is, okay, what's next? What keeps this variable? There's no interaction in the game. It doesn't really matter what I do versus what you do. There's no real interaction. We kind of get everything we want. There's tons of cascading bonuses. It needs to be reined in just a drop and possibly giving you a reason to reapproach it in different ways, whether they're goal cards or something. I don't even know how you would do it necessarily, and doesn't necessarily need that. I just like that in my experiences. But overall, Uncharted Stars is a lot of fun. That's the short version of everything. It's a lot of fun. It is a good roll and write experience that feels like it makes you powerful, and you choose the various upgrades and pathways you're going to have in the game as you tackle this engine, plays in around 30, 45 minutes, depending on player count, depending on how much table talk there is, and ultimately gives you a enjoyable, cascading bonus roll and write experience. If you're looking for other game recommendations, I already mentioned them. Fleet, Three Sisters, Gone Clever, those are all going to be other roll and write experiences that give you a lot of cascading bonuses. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.